Welcome back. Joining us right now, all in green, I love it, is the spokesperson for the Wilkes Barre City Health Department Community Gardens Program, Farmer Pat. Farmer Pat, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me here on this very special occasion.
Absolutely. It's always a special occasion every time Farmer Pat graces us with his presence. So last time you were here, you talked about this Community Gardens Initiative program, how you have been so busy touring the gardens, doing all these before and afters, you know, with revamping them. So give us some updates.
Well, the last time I was here was the end of May, which is the beginning of the planting season for many of us in the viewing area. And now, throughout the summer, I had a great opportunity of experiencing these gardens. And the thing that stood out the most to me was how there's so many everyday individuals in our communities who are using their time and their talents to give back to their neighborhood, give back to the community, and to help one another out. And at the same time, since they're growing gardens, they're also helping the environment out. So that was probably the thing that stood out the most to me about all these different gardens in the city. And it's a good reminder to all of us to ask ourselves, what can we also do to give back to our community and to give back to nature?
Yeah, it is so beautiful to see people rally together to beautify our city in this wonderful way, and there are so many gardens throughout Wilkes Barre now, and I like to think that this is just going to snowball and become better. I'm just mixing all my seasons now,
Yeah.
Snowballing now. But speaking of seasons, I mean, this summer was a hot one, you know, and people, I think, struggled a little bit with their gardens. Now that we're on the tail end and we're starting that harvest, I mean, what have you noticed from maybe vegetable gardens in the area since it's been so warm?
Because now you're not just associated with your garden at home, you're seeing all these ones,
Right.
you know, throughout the city.
Well, one of the keys you can do to help your garden when it's extremely hot, as soon as you plant your vegetables, as soon as you plant your garden, you want to add mulch around your plants. So you could use wood chips, you could use landscape mulch, you could use straw, and the key with that is to add about 2 to 3 inches around your plants. So that mulch will help retain the soil moisture, and it will especially stop the weeds from growing. So if you have less weeds growing around your vegetables, then you have less plants competing for water and for nutrients. So that's one of the key tips to help your plants during these extremely hot weather conditions. And also, you want to water on a regular basis. The best time to water would be in the evening time, so that that water has time to soak in overnight and it doesn't get evaporated by the sun. And also, another tip when you're watering your plants, try to avoid getting the vegetation wet. Because if you have constant wet leaves, that's going to increase your chances for diseases. So water at the base of your plant.
Interesting. These are all such good things to keep in mind. And I wonder if people followed some of those tips, they might be having large harvests right about now. I know my grandma has more tomatoes than she knows what to do with. Any tips for that, for maintaining or using your harvest to the best?
Yeah, one of the tips for harvesting, like you just mentioned tomatoes, so I've been busy canning tomatoes, but instead of waiting until I have trillions of tomatoes to can at once, I make it a point to try to can about once a week, and that way it's enjoyable, so I only have to take a few hours out of my day to can tomatoes. And if you do this every week for a couple weeks throughout the growing season, by the end of the season you'll have dozens and dozens of canned tomatoes, and it will be a very cozy fall and a cozy winter time.
Love it. You can just always tell the passion that you have, you know, about not only creating your own bounty at home, but, you know, with our viewers, and, you know, time after time we get so many messages from folks saying, you know, like Farmer Pat kind of debunks and demyths. Maybe we think gardening is so hard because growing up you didn't have one, or you've only planted tomatoes, or those cucumbers that just seem to grow on the side of your house that you never planted, but, oh, I can grow a good cucumber, you know. So it's always so reassuring when you're on, you know, to really tell us and remind us that this is something that we all can be doing.
Absolutely, and these gardens throughout the city of Wilkes Barre, they demonstrate that you don't have to live on a farm, you don't have to live in the countryside to grow food. I mean, some of these gardens are literally on the edge of a parking lot. There's no soil around. They built raised beds, and then they filled it in with soil. And now they're planting food, they're growing food, they're teaching members of the community how to grow food, and they are sharing that harvest with people in our community who need some extra help.
Absolutely.
So great for the kids too. I think going back to school, you know, because it is back to school now, you know, what did you do this summer? You could have learned to garden because of these opportunities that you're providing to the kids in Wilkes Barre. So it really is a special thing.
Yeah, well, you stick around because I still want to, continue this conversation, hopefully, to remind our viewers that farmers markets, even though the summer is, ended or ending, they're still going and thriving. So you want to stick around?
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere. My roots are planted into the sea.
Oh, here we go. Love it. Always a good pun with Farmer Pat. You all stick around at home. More at PA Live when we return.